Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie, and welcome back to another DraftKings DFS Slate breakdown. Back on Champions League action here, and it is a good old-fashioned Bayern huge favorite slate. Minus 900 against Champions League debutants Papos. Then Inter, the next biggest, at minus 300. And we got a bunch of teams who are like minus odds, but not by a ton, like Liverpool against Galatasaray, Atleti against Frankfurt, Chelsea against Benfica, Tottenham against Bodo, although both teams are plus odds there, and then Marseille minus 200 against Ajax. So yeah, every game bar one has a minus favorite. So there is an argument to get off of a Bayern, but Bayern could score 4 or 5 and surprise me against Paphos. So that's just something to think about. In terms of our goal contribution odds, starting with this Bayern game, you can see like Kane, Elise, Diaz, Jackson, if he somehow starts. Like it is really just really geared towards them in terms of the odds. Inter Milan, though, a couple of guys with minus odds like Lautaro, Thuram, Enrique, if he plays. So there is pivots off of these Bayern guys, but you're just taking like a just a little bit of a dip in terms of their chances of getting goal contributions in relation to Bayern. And that's Inter too. That's like your second biggest favorite. They're still quite a bit lower than the Bayern guys. Galatasaray, Liverpool, Isak, Salah, Katike leading the way there. Atleti's got a few guys. They're forwards, depending on who starts. Chelsea, Pedro, going to be the only starter there. On minus odds, Shabby minus odds against Bodo, who I think Bodo are going to be a competitive team. They're playing like the Arctic Circle practically, so it's a super tough place to travel to. So that's why you only see Tottenham at like plus 100, despite them probably just having the much more talented team in that game. That's just why they're only favored as much as they are. Marseille, Greenwood, Aubameyang, Guiri, O'Reilly, all minus odds in there. And yeah, that's it. As you can see, it's mostly about Bayern, but there's some other guys in good spots as well. And now let's go into our projected lineups and set pieces. I'm going to try to buzz through this because it is a 7 game slate. So a ton of guys to talk to. Starting with Atleti in this team, it should be an Alvarez monopoly. For Frankfurt, Dewan and Chaby split in that lineup. Bodo should be mostly Berg. Tottenham should be Kudus and Xavi Simons. Chelsea should be Enzo Fernandez and Neto in this team. Benfica should be mostly Sudikov, maybe Orsnes, Stahl, Luka Bacchio could end up taking something though. Galatasaray should be Gundogan Monopoly in this lineup. Liverpool should be some combo, Szoboszlai, Verts, Gakpo, Robertson. All 4 of them have taken different points in the season. They don't have a super set routine. Inter should be DiMarco and Çalhanoğlu. Slavia Praha should be Cham and Kuse splitting. Marseille should be mostly Greenwood in this team. Maybe Matt O'Reilly ends up splitting. Ajax should be Gotts and maybe Kenneth Taylor splitting. Paphos should be mostly Pepe. Bayern should be Kimmich and Olise splitting. So that's just off those projected lineups, of course. We could see guys like Reece James start for Chelsea. Suddenly that would change the set hierarchy. So as always, if you want to see updated sets as well as a core and lineup notes, come closer to lock when we have all of the team news in. Make sure to check out the FSI Discord, which can be accessed through a subscription in the website linked below. All right, but now let's go to our pricing here. The first thing, as you can see, 12K for Harry Kane. This is just going to be a tempting option because he's like, what, minus 400, I think it was to get a goal contribution. That's just insane. It's like minus, I think, 200 anytime goal scorer odds or something, too. So, yeah, he's just in a great spot. However, if you want to be like a little bit cheeky, like UPP especially, there's definitely ways to get off of a Harry Kane just because he doesn't have a ton of floor to him, and 12K is a hefty price. You probably even dodge 1 goal if he gets that. Like 12 points, he shouldn't be overly scared of, considering he's got that 12K price range. There are going to be guys who kind of blow that out of the water if he only scores 1. However, what the worrying thing is he can score 3 or 4, and you're going to need a Harry Kane despite him being 12K. After him, though, there's Mo Salah. I think he's a little bit overpriced here. He's only 8K. During the Premier League last game against Crystal Palace. Now he's like 11 in a 7 game slate. It's going to be more guys to get off of, as well as he's got a tough matchup away Galatasaray. It's a tough atmosphere to go. Galatasaray have a ton of fans. I think their stadium, they just pack it too. It can be a bit of a hostile environment. Aubameyang 10,400. That's a little bit pricey for me as well. Pavlidis 10,002, also a bit pricey. And I'm going to mention Garnacho. I just think there's zero way he starts. Although was he projected? No. Oh, he wasn't projected. Garnacho. I'd be a little surprised if he started, but I think he's overpriced too. After him, Greenwood, I think, or Gakpo. Gakpo's fine. Like you can gamble on him potentially taking set pieces. Although I think Szoboszlai is probably the most likely at this current day and age. However, can just change just out of nowhere. It's just what they do. Greenwood 9,400. This is the first kind of non-Bayern piece I'm going to be kind of intrigued by. He looked really good against Real Madrid. He had 22 points. They had just awful, awful game flow too because Marseille were tied super early on. I think they even scored first too. But yeah, he's still got to find a way to get the 22 points, 9 floor away to Real Madrid with unfavorable game script is pretty wild to see. Like he's going to be a tempting option here, even as an alternative to Harry Kane or even to play together. Julian Alvarez, if it's this lineup here with no Griezmann starting, I think that's a pretty favorable spot as well, just because you're going to get a monopoly set taker. However, if Griezmann does start, it'll just be a split, which turns me off of him a little bit. However, he's been in super good form, had a hat trick over the weekend too. So like you can't really ask for much more coming into this game. So he's going to be a tempting option as well. I'm not going to mention everyone just because there's so many guys on this slate, but guys catch my eye. Gawiri, if he starts, he potentially has a share for Marseille. And then Luis Diaz here at 7,100. That's super, super cheap. He's on that super favorable Bayern matchup. And he's just so much lower priced than the other Bayern guys. We'll get to mid in a second. But like Elise said, 11,800. Harry Kane, you're talking about 12K. You've got Luis Diaz for half the price of those guys. And he's been really good too. He's kind of unfortunate too. The Bayern goal last game, I think it was Jonathan Tah they gave it to, and it very clearly hit Luis Diaz off of the Tah header. However, they scored it as Tah, which is just wild. Like Bundesliga, I think can be a little bit inconsistent with their scoring sometimes. I don't think necessarily super. I think they might override Opta at times, who is the usual stat tracker. It was just a whole other debate, but yeah, it very much should have been a Luis Diaz goal. He saw an assist that game as well. So he's still walking away with the goal contribution. And like I said, at 7,100, that's such cheap way. It's such a cheap way to get exposure to Bayern. I think it's a super, super tempting option. And once again, he's very much an in-play forward. It's like 4 or 5 guys who we've already mentioned who are just all in really good spots, and he's one of them. Gnabry now, the issue with him is that he's a little bit less safe for minutes than a Diaz. He's probably going to be the first one off. That is, if he even starts. I know they have him in projected. Wouldn't surprise me if they go, I don't know. What do they have? They have other attackers that they can just slot right in here for Gnabry. Gnabry also started last weekend too, which means I feel that like, they would have rested him if he was for sure going to start. He still might, but like I feel a little bit better about him, his chances of playing if he started on the bench here, considering he's not like a mainstay in the starting lineup anyway. After that, there's like Pai Shao, who if it was like his, I think what Feyenoord days where he was taking set pieces, being an awesome player, maybe a lot more tempted. He's kind of still getting settled under um De Zerbi at Marseille though. But 6,800, that's not a bad spot. Lautaro at 6,400. He's been a little bit out of favor, hasn't started a ton, but he finally got like a chance to, I think it was first start of the season over the weekend, scored a couple of goals, or I think he had one goal, maybe one disallowed having an assist or something. I don't remember exactly, but he was good, is my point. And it's C400, second best matchup on the slate. That's not a bad option at all. Sorloth, never a bad option for Atleti. Griezmann can be super tempting as well if he starts. Neto, same thing. Both set piece taking attackers. Hard to argue with them, both minus odds as well. After that, in terms of like your bargain bin attackers, Gots, 5K set pieces, that's not awful as well. What I like to do with these forwards, I like to find a guy who kind of has a floor and upside and kind of marry those two things together. Which is why Harry Kane, I think there's ways to fade him because he doesn't have that floor. However, he's just got the best upside on the slate on the other hand. But that's one thing I think about when looking at forwards here. After that, in terms of these like bargain bin attackers, there's not a ton that I'm super into. I think it's largely a payout forward slate just because there's some really intriguing options here. There's going to be a lot of goals on the 7-game slate, so you kind of want upside here. The best way to do that usually is paying up for your safe attackers. Now midfielders. 12K for Michael Elise. He's going to be a super tempting option. He's another guy who kind of you marry that floor with upside. He's got both those. Had 10 against Chelsea, which wasn't great, but still, like if that's his floor, like if that's the worst he's gonna do, 10 points is not that bad. That's not gonna kill you, despite him being 12K. Which if a Harry Kane busts, like you could have like a 5. But that will kill you for 12K. After that, like Olise is gonna be the most tempting. I think he's gonna be the highest owned midfielder on this slate in cash formats, especially. Just not a ton else to look at. Cole Palmer is out. Berg, he's just overpriced for the matchup. Kudus is not terrible, but like I said, I'm a little bit afraid of Bodo. Wirtz, who has been priced up finally after doing nothing. I don't know how he's been priced up for continuing to underperform. And if he's lost his sets, like he takes nothing now. He's had a corner every game except for the weekend, where now if it's just a Shoboshloy monopoly, I just can't see myself getting to too much Wirtz here, especially with that matchup. Now, Kimmich is 7,400. This is an interesting one. Has set pieces, but what he lacks is kind of the upside. Bayern going to score a ton of goals. Kimmich, he's not likely to get a ton of goal contributions. He gets an assist off a corner. Like I don't really see him scoring. Let's look at his goal contribution odds just to get a full picture here. Plus 115. Like he's less likely to get a goal contribution than he is to get one, is what that's telling me. So you're really just kind of expecting floor from him more likely than not, which would be like a 10, 15 points max. And now that it's got like a full split with Elise, Kimmich used to be like a monopoly set piece taker. Now you're getting like a defensive midfielder splitting. And I just don't know if he can keep up with the upside that we're going to get on a slate like this. He's still very much in play. So you kind of got to know what you're getting into with the Josh Kimmich. And that's a great floor, but you're just lacking a little bit in terms of goal contribution equity. Saying that though, like plus 115 isn't crazy. It's like what, like a 55% chance of not getting goal contribution. That means a 45% chance of getting one. It's a goal. Something that's like that 10 floor plus like 12 points, 24. That'd be super solid. I don't think he's a lock or anything at 7,400. Other guys I'm thinking about, Shoboshloy, there he is. He could be the new Wirtz. He's been a lot more active too in terms of just getting floor. Wirtz, I don't know, just been anonymous at times this season. Shoboshloy is kind of been Liverpool's best player. I don't think that's bad take. 21 floor. That first game against Atleti was really good. And 6,100 is not a bad price point at all. That's a super tempting mid option. Doan, I know they're playing Atleti, but 5,500 not bad for him. He's a guy who crosses a ton from open play as well, which you can never say no to. Dudikov, 5,400. Loved him in Benfica's first leg where they lost a carrot bag. Shock result there. They were like minus like 900, minus 1,000 or something. But still at 18 floor. So he was still solid nonetheless. Chelsea's a little bit of a tough matchup, but that's not a bad spot for him. Cham, I liked him for, what was it, Clermont, what I think he was, like a super fun set piece taker on League slates. But Inter away is just a tough matchup. Gundogan at 5,100, I mean, that's awful. Enzo 5,100, if there's no Reece James, I think that's awful. Shaby 4,800, that's not bad. Like there's a bunch of kind of lower mid-range midfielders who are very much in play here. Provode, like he's been a set piece taker at times. He just doesn't take over this what's that guy's name? I've already forgotten. Were they playing? Inter, which is right here. Uh Kuse, that's the guy who takes over him. The other two left-footed options, and Kuse has priority over him. Provode. After that, in terms of like these bargain bin guys that I think about going, Kenneth Taylor, don't love it. Barella, if there's no Çalhanoğlu, Barella ends up the set piece taker in that scenario. I think you could persuade me to go him, even without him, even with that with Çalhanoğlu in, like he's not a bad little kind of just inter attacking exposure for 3,900. I could still make some sense in that scenario. Looking for one guy I saw earlier that I have not seen him yet, or I missed him. Let me just pick. Yeah, there he is. Glauc at 3,200. He still hasn't started in the Champions League, other than this Braga game, which I think was a qualifier. But yeah, you can see he was really good in that game. Only off the bench against Inter. But I think he's a super fun player, Oscar Glauc. Set piece taker, upside, like he's in a number 10, so he gets a chance to get goal contributions. At 3,200, I think that's a bad spot. I know Marseille away is a bit of a tough matchup, but for 3K for a super talented attacker, I don't think that's a bad spot at all. And then not seeing a ton else here. There is definitely some alternative to Bayern pieces they have made. Defenders now. Hold on, no, stop it. Defenders now. Here's a look at my dog. There he is. Defenders now. DeMarco, that's the big name immediately. Bayern don't have super attacking fullbacks, so you can't just kind of stack them like you would most slates with big favorites. Like there's Bowe, Guerrero, who aren't bad, but they're not super crossing fullbacks. So it lowers their DFS ability a little bit. DeMarco, on the other hand, second best matchup. They're still minus 300, set piece taker. So he's just super tempting. Gets a ton of goal contributions as well. I think he's had like 3 goal contributions in his last 4 games, which is super insane for a wingback. The issue with him is that his minutes can be a little bit inconsistent. 80 is pretty good for him against Ajax. I wouldn't be surprised if he only goes like 65 though. So there's drawbacks to DeMarco. He's like a stone lock, I don't think. And that 800 price tag is not cheap. Like he's the same price as Luis Diaz, pretty much, which is kind of insane. But he's still a great option. Poro, if there's no Xavi Simons, he should split. I could see an argument for him in that scenario. Dumfries is never bad. He gets a ton of goal contributions from wingback. Dahl, I'm not really interested in. Is kind of just not taking a ton of set pieces lately. Robertson at 4,700. He got that super lucky goal in the opening game against Atleti, where there's like a Salah free kick. He shot it, like it rebounds off of Robertson's foot and deflects into the goal. So Robertson got a goal for it, but otherwise only like 3 points. So it's just not great there. After that, I think you're looking at more punts. I did miss Bowie. How much was he? Okay, 3,300. That is a lock for me because that is super cheap buying exposure. Guerrero 2, 4,800 is not bad. But if Bowie starts at 3,300, I think that's probably the best play on the slate per dollar, just because you're getting a buy-in exposure for dirt cheap. He's a fallback, so we will get forward too. That's my core play right there, Sasha Bowie. When we get into that portion, then other than him, like I just not a ton. Like DeMarco is kind of your only like really good set piece taking fullback. Reece James is not terrible at 5K, but other than those two, like there's not a ton of set pieces down here that you usually get, despite it being a 7 game. There's just not many teams that kind of just have set piece taking defenders on this slate, which is just unfortunate. Because that's kind of my favorite thing to pick. But then I think you're looking at center back punts. Let's look at some of the Bayern guys specifically, since I did see Kim Min Jae there, who, if he starts, would be a great pick for Bayern exposure. Let's see if he is in. He isn't projected, and where's the Bayern game? There it is, all the way at the end. But yeah, like him, Upamecano, whoever starts, that's not a bad little kind of just run, hope for a goal contribution. Because let's look at these center backs. They don't have bad goal contributions. Like plus 475, plus 500. That's not that crazy for essentially a 2,800 play, like a free play. Like literally, you can't get much cheaper than 2,800. And you're hoping for a goal contribution. That'd be crazy. Like go off of a set piece. Like Ta ended up being given over the weekend. But even if that doesn't happen, Bayern should stay clean here. Like they're minus 900. Papos are probably not going to score. It's just not that likely. So you're getting 3 points minimum. Plus you get a ton of passes because Bayern have a ton of possessions. So you have like 4 or 5 points just in those two things. And like that basically pays off price at 2,800, 2,900. And like I said, you're just hoping for a goal contribution off of like a set piece, like a header. So yeah, those are my thoughts on defender. Goalkeeper, as always, crapshoot. I'm just gonna. From now on, I might just not even talk about the position, just because I didn't have a ton to say about it. Kind of play whoever fits the rest of your build and don't think about it too much. Now, in terms of a core, I'm starting with Bowie. I don't really want to put DeMarco in here, just because you can go Kim and Jay and Bowie say. I think you've got so much salary to work with here to go for attackers, Kane's, Elise's, Greenwood's. So I think either way is a viable route. You can go DeMarco, maybe go like Diaz instead of a Kane. Like that's fine too. I think just preference there. So I might just not even put another guy besides Bowie. Actually, I'll go Elise. I think he's kind of the mid to go. I think he's a little bit safer than Kane just because he has that floor. Maybe he doesn't have the same upside, but it's very easy to kind of fit both those guys together. Even with the DeMarco, like you can go all four of those guys and still have enough to work with. It'd be a tough fit. Like you'd have to punt in several spots, but it is doable. But that's why I just start Elise, Bowie. Decide if you want Kane or not. Decide if you want DeMarco or not. Decide if you want Diaz or not. I'm not picking a third piece yet, just because I think it's just too tough. There's too many ways to go. If we get like a bargain or something, I'm hoping some lineups that'd be a better piece to commit to for a third core piece. But I don't want to give you guys anything that I don't feel certain about. But yeah, that'll be it. And I hope I'll see you for the next one. Peace.